Good evening and welcome to Quizzy Monday. We are back in the throes of Monday quiz action, and there's been a lot to chat about and a lot to enjoy this week with a high-scoring Mastermind round, a challenging but really enjoyable Only Connect, and a fairly one-sided University Challenge. We've got a great show for you tonight. We have got James Devine-Stoneman from Mastermind. We're going to kick off by having a chat to James about his experience on Mastermind. Then we're going to bid farewell to James, but we're going to bring on Katrina, Jade, Joe, Veronica, and Padraig from Only Connect, and we are going to digest tonight's brilliant Only Connect episode. We will, of course, touch on University Challenge, and we will finish up with the champagne moment of the week. You can put comments and questions in the chat. We'll do our best to bring those up where appropriately. Gerard has got us off to a start, and this is I'm a hostage to fortune bringing this up. What does he say? I just accidentally put a full cup of tea on top of a spoon on the table. The cup fell off and did a somersault onto my chair, so I'm just drying things out. On that bombshell, Gerard has had a tea accident. Let's hope nothing worse befalls you or anybody who's watching tonight. Now, just want to say thank you very much to Emma, Thomas, and Greg, who are our 3 latest Patreon members. If you want to support the channel, you can go to patreon.com/allthingsquiz. We had our monthly Patreon quiz last night. There'll be another big end of the year one coming up at the end of December. And of course, we've got our World Quiz Awards coming up in early January, and our Patreons will be amongst the people presenting awards. So if you want to be part of that, if you want to support the channel, and if you want to join in with the stuff that we do, then go to patreon.com/allthingsquiz. Now, let us go on to Mastermind and meet James Devine-Stoneman, who put in a fantastic performance tonight. Hello, James. Welcome back to the channel.
Hello, Gareth. Good to be back.
So you are no stranger to Quizzy Monday. You've been on a few times. You're a past series champion of University Challenge. Going solo on Mastermind, how different was that as an experience for you?
Yeah, so I think the last few years have been me trying really to develop as a solo quizzer, because it is a totally different game. On University Challenge, we divided up the subjects between us. We came with our own specialisms, but with the stuff we didn't know, we were able to divide it between us. No such luxury on Mastermind, so all part of trying to develop myself as a solo quizzer.
There's absolutely nowhere to hide on Mastermind, and with the time pressure, again, it was interesting. When I was watching you, I was thinking you weren't rushing, you weren't jumping in on answers. Was that a strategy on your part, or are you just quite a considered, calm player?
I think so. I think my last TV appearance, which was The Chase, one thing I found was I rushed in the final chase, and it was to our detriment. And yes, we didn't set a very difficult target for Jenny Ryan to reach. So I did, I think, consciously try to slow things down. There is that, on Mastermind, trying to listen for the end of the question and get in as soon as you can at the end of the question to limit the time. But yeah, I think I did that effectively for some of it. Maybe it could have been faster at other times. I think even watching it back, I thought my specialist round seemed to go really fast. But yeah, just sort of listen and try to get in a rhythm, I suppose.
And we've got a bunch of questions popping up. We'll have a look at those. Oh, hang on. Brendan McMorrow says James put in a I think that means stonking general knowledge round, not a stinking one. Because it was anything but stinking, that general knowledge round. But your specialist subject round, you said it went. Oh yeah, hang on. Stonking. You said it went really quickly. You got 10 out of 13 questions. You were tripped up early on with one of the first questions about you presented an award with. Was that kind of something that came a little bit out of the blue? I mean, how do you prepare for a subject like Lady Gaga, who's still contemporary, an ever-growing list of stuff that you could be asked about?
Yeah, well, I really should have got that question, because it is really only the last year or two that I've followed her. I got into her 2020 album Chromatica, and then just explored from there. I hadn't looked into any of her acting career before, or her jazz stuff with Tony Bennett, which didn't come up. But yeah, so there was a lot to explore. And that being a fairly recent event, it was this year. I really should have got it, but I just, the right neurons don't fire, and it's. I think I get Oscars. First thing I think of Oscars is appearance with Bradley Cooper for Shallow, and that was the first thing that came to mind. It was a huge thing in the media, the appearance with Liza Minnelli this year, but just couldn't think of it on the spot.
But it didn't knock you. It would have been easy to be knocked by like one of your early questions tripping you up, but you then just powered through the next 8 or so of them. So you must have felt like you were in a good rhythm, and then you got another one that tripped you, and you ended up passing on it. Had you had a pass strategy before you went in?
Not really. I mean, I know it's the age-old thing. Do you just say banana instead of passing? But you get a slight advantage with the answer not being read back to you. So if you can stack a few up, maybe you can get in an extra question. I think in my general knowledge, I had a question start just at the end of the time. So, but yeah, it's a difficult thing to plan. I tried not to pass, but sometimes I just couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, I mean, 10 out of 13, pretty well placed at that point. I think, the first person got 12, Leah got 12, Jane went on to get another 10. And then if you use the word stonking again, a stonking performance by Katie to get 14. That was astounding. How were you feeling at that halfway point? Because you have got good general knowledge. You've been on University Challenge, you've been on Chase, you quiz on the circuit, etc. Were you feeling 4 points is quite a bit to make up, or were you feeling relatively confident that if you performed well, you'd be up there?
Well, yeah, I think we were all sitting there watching everyone barely put a foot wrong and thinking, this is a serious heat, isn't it? So yeah, being first up as well in the general knowledge round, thought, well, you're in last place basically. You can only come back from here and try to set a high bar. So I think I relaxed a bit. I thought, well, nothing to lose now, really.
And it worked. You got a fantastic 16 out of 18, which, is amongst the best general knowledge scores we've seen this series. And in fact, for a good number of series, that must have felt pretty good, really in the zone whilst you're playing that round.
Yeah. It did. It did feel very good. Even watching it back tonight, I mean, the Ted Hughes question, I was watching it back thinking, I don't know what the answer to this is, and then past me said Ted Hughes. So
well done, past James. That's fantastic. Now, Lady Gaga. So you said you got into Lady Gaga a couple of years ago. That's one thing. Picking her as a subject, on the other hand, is quite another thing. What was the thinking behind her as opposed to, perhaps one of the more regular subjects, standard subjects like the Emily Dickinson one we saw tonight?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, what can I do? I sent in my application fairly late after watching last season's final, and I came up with. I was thinking, what do I know about superconductivity? They probably won't allow me to do that. I did throw it in anyway. And then I thought, well, I've got into Lady Gaga recently. That's someone with, I think it's always good to do a musician because it gives you a very defined scope to revise from. And, well, Lady Gaga has an acting career as well, so add something on. I think maybe she's now at the point in her career that it is a subject you can do because it's never been done before. Thought it's there for the taking. It's only ever been done on Australian Mastermind.
Right.
So I thought, well, it's there for the taking. May as well go for it.
And how was it as an experience? We've heard some people say that it actually destroys their love of a subject. For you, having got into it recently, did it add to it, or did it kind of turn Lady Gaga into a bit of a chore for you?
No, I think it definitely added added to my appreciation for her because I hadn't listened to her jazz albums with Tony Bennett before. So I've learned a lot about, jazz standards and things through that, show tunes, um, and the acting stuff as well. So I watched her films, the facts about The Sopranos came up on Australian Mastermind actually, but they asked her for the episode title, so they went deeper. But no, definitely was an enjoyable subject to revise.
And when you're talking about going deep into a subject, you've got so many different sources and different aspects of her life that you're trying to kind of bring together into your brain. How did you go about getting that information into your brain? Did you write questions, write notes, do flashcards?
Yeah, so I flashcard anyway, and so I made a flashcard deck on my app for Lady Gaga. The first thing I did was sort of trawl the Wikipedia article, pick out what's the interesting quizzable facts from that, and I think I preempted that a lot of the questions would be notable people she's worked with, people she's collaborated with. We saw, maybe even about half the questions in that set were, who's this famous musician or band that she's worked with, or it's creating links to things that people know, so people recognize the answers when they're watching, I think, is the way some writers approach it. So I had preempted that to an extent.
And when you said you made a flashcard deck, how many cards are we talking?
I think it was about 200.
Okay.
250 maybe. So I went from Wikipedia to then other sources. I mean, there's like a Gagapedia, a fan site that got me some of the early stuff, because I realized, there's this stuff before she even called herself Lady Gaga, and there's a lot, an extensive like unreleased songs and all sorts of stuff, which never didn't come up at all, but
but it's a little bit like resistance training. You have to kind of go harder than it's actually going to be in the show to kind of make sure.
I did preempt. I thought there might be a question about her tattoos. She's got a tattoo of a trumpet to do with the jazz stuff.
Yeah.
She's got a tattoo of La Vie en Rose to do with Star is Born. I hadn't appreciated the significance of the tattoo I was asked for, unfortunately.
And that became a pass. But nonetheless, 10 out of 13, very good. Double figures in this series has always been a good score. Lee, you put in a phenomenal round in general knowledge. Lee also was outstanding. Were you counting them off as he was going?
I wasn't. I find it very difficult to count along. But I thought, well, he's doing very well here. I think he's probably overtaken me. And yeah, he matched me exactly in the general knowledge round, didn't he? So
yeah. I mean, it was brilliant to say both of you getting 16. It was a high caliber round. We've got a comment somewhere here, which I can't see now, but somebody's saying about it being a stacked heat. Somebody else saying, Brendan saying James' great score emphasizes how rough it could be in Mastermind, given the winner takes all format, and not necessarily having another shot at it unless you're really high scoring and people drop out. And we've seen a few of those this series. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, it can happen. I think, well, obviously it's easy for me to sit here and say, yes, there should be a repechage. I think there should, in principle. I've seen, not only me, but earlier this series, the first episode was stacked. We had a couple of weeks ago. Did she score 27?
Something
she was beaten by Michael McPartland, and to go out with 27. I mean, it's harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course, with when there isn't a repechage, you only have to make sure the questions are balanced within a set. So you can have a low scoring set, which doesn't mean that they're poorer players. But if you get a high score, you're going to feel a bit aggrieved by that. Your 26.
Am
There
I?
was one
Oh, my
lovely
26. Oh, I thought you were saying my age.
no, I was just saying your 26 was a good one, but one of the things that I particularly loved was your answer of Bill Nighy appearing in The Walking Dead. I thought good presence of mind to come up with a name, even better presence of mind
Yeah.
to come up with somebody very unlikely. But then he'd been in Shaun of the Dead, so actually perhaps not
Yeah, I
as
don't
unlikely.
know where I pulled that from, but yeah.
I did enjoy that. Has this given you a taste for doing it again, or has it put you off?
I think I'm probably likely to go for it again in future. I think I've thought before, oh, I should hold off. I should, go out a few years revising the specialist subjects in advance and make sure I know I'm encyclopedic. But then, of course, you could get to the application and the producers don't like your subjects. So I thought, well, just go for it. I watched the final last April and thought, I'm just going to go for it. You may as well give it a go.
Exactly, and first time's just reconnaissance. You did well. Next time you go for it, you'll have a really good idea of what it takes work-wise to nail a specialist subject and what the experience is like, not just in the chair, but the whole day and how you prepare for it. You flew to Belfast. Was that there and back in the day, or was it stay overnight type situation?
It was overnight, yeah. I think, yeah, the day I got there was a bit sort of it feels a bit strange because I was there, didn't know anyone. Well, turns out there were people in Belfast that I knew, but I thought, I know people who are arriving the next day, but so it felt a bit strange that first day, and went to the local fried chicken shop and got myself some dinner. Just stayed in the hotel, did some last minute revision, thinking, "Oh God, why am I doing this? Have I made a mistake doing this?" But then the day itself was, it was so much fun. Because when you're in the moment, it's fine. And Lee and Jane and Katie were all great. We had a nice chat afterwards in the hotel.
Wonderful. Well, excellent first run from James, says Brendan. He should be proud of himself. Yeah, you got a lot of good comments on Twitter. So hopefully, that will kind of put you in good place for next time you decide to go for the show. You certainly got, as we saw with the general knowledge to really make yourself a serious contender for the show going forward. So well done, James.
Thank you.
Normally, we ask for champagne moments at the end of the week, at the end of the show, but you will be leaving us at the end of this chat. So I'm going to ask you now what your champagne moment of today's quizzing was.
Well, I think we saw all round a great standard in that Mastermind heat, but I think particularly I have to point out Katie Bamber with her 14 in her specialist round, and then to top it off with a solid general knowledge performance. And that's coming from someone who's relatively new to quizzing. She said she just did the odd pub quiz before, and she went on Mastermind and found herself in that heat and did very well.
Yeah.
So I think that's got to be it for me.
Brilliant. Yes, no, we definitely have to applaud her. Very good. When you do a TV show, there's so many things they can ask about. She maxed out on that 14 out of 14, a good, strong general knowledge performance. Yeah, really good to see new talent come through. Good nomination. Well, James, thanks for coming on the show. We will no doubt speak again at some point because you are a great contributor. But for now, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, Gareth. Bye.
Okay, so now we are just going to have a quick look at who won our votes for Quizzer and Team of the Week last week. Well done to Sarah Trevarthen, the brain of Britain. She won Quizzer of the Week last week. Second was Patrick Buckingham, and third was Matt Parkinson from The Chase Australia. Team of the Week was Quiz Bowl Cabal, who won the Online Quiz League Buzzer Quiz. Second was Quentin Quarantino, champions of Quiz Nations Asia Pacific. And third was Courtauld Institute of Art, winners of last week's University Challenge. Now, don't forget, you can nominate any team or any player for Quiz of the Week or Team of the Week. Go to tinyurl.com/ATQ nominations. Nominations must be in by 5 p.m. on a Monday. So, thank you to James. Now, we're moving on to Only Connect, and it gives me great pleasure to bring 5 of the 6 people that we saw tonight on screen. And they are Katrina, Jade, Joe, Veronica, and Padraig. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
That was very enjoyable watching that. And you're both teams in the luxurious position of, for the second time running, knowing this wasn't the show where you might go home. Mother's Ruined, to start with. What did you know of the Cryptics before you went into studio, if anything?
Well, this was the second time. Sorry, this was our second day of filming. So we'd come back after our first round win, and actually the Cryptics had been there on the first day, so we'd met them beforehand. I remember them revising furiously, intimidating us with the amount of general knowledge that they were testing each other on in the green room. Actually, ferociously young, incredibly talented people, and just I'm in awe, really, completely in awe. At that age, not any age, I don't want to be patronising, but to have that level of self-assurance and knowledge, I'm just so impressed with this team.
Brilliant. Joe, described as the surprisingly normal Joe on Twitter tonight.
One Twitter, I'm happy.
You have one Twitter.
She's already updated her Facebook cover photo to just me.
I have taken down the picture of my children and I have replaced it with I'm normal. Who knew?
Surprisingly normal. So great to have the Mother's Ruin. Cryptics, same sort of question. You were filming at the same time, that same block. Did you know anything, when you were busy revising your general knowledge and you had your heads in the book, did you pay attention to your opposition, or did you go in kind of not knowing anything about them?
I mean, I'm not entirely sure, because we're all very personable and we try not to talk about the actual quiz things. What I've quite liked about all of the contestants we've met is that we're very personable and we're all friends. So it's never sort of like we're just in a book, like what are they doing? It's
I think the more we interacted, the more we got a little spooked that they were very competent. So we
quick, look. So I don't know what any of these words are. Just read.
And you made good play in the opening chat about how you felt questions had fallen for you in the first round, the sort of Irish language questions and the Thai connection kind of thing. Did you? Yeah, I mean, you can joke about it with Victoria Coren, but did you seriously feel that way, or did you come out of that show just feeling, we played well?
I think it was a mix of both.
A little bit of both. I mean, I definitely think getting a question on the Irish language, with 2 members of the team that speak Irish, it's not going to not feel that way. But then, the missing vowels round, the former building societies came up, and that was about as far away as our area of expertise could have possibly been. So it did kind of balance out in that way, and we felt it was a really strong performance from both teams. So, sometimes they go your way, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, other times it just sort of falls away from you. Like, I'm sure we'll get on to talk about that wall later on, but I think a bit that was edited out, Victoria commented to us that yes, this connection may have been something a bit before your time, as it were.
The dreaded phrase that should never be spoken before my time. But when it is something pop culture like the cast of Big Brother 1, otherwise, I mean, you actually did well. You solved it, didn't you? But by going for names rather than.
I mean, it's that classic wall trick of here's 4 first names. Let's see if they go together. Unfortunately, like upon being presented with the answer, there's that bit of remembrance of, of course, these are. I think Craig in particular is like a standout from season 1, but I don't think it was ever something we would have come up with.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, Steve said Big Brother 1 probably fell in the same category as the building societies too.
Yes, a little bit, I think.
Absolutely. Now, rounds 1 and 2, it turned out to be pretty good for the Mothers Ruined. Veronica, what were your highlights of the first couple of rounds?
Well, I mean, the first round actually didn't go very well for us. We struggled a bit, and the Cryptics looked much more confident than us, I thought. The second round went our way, what didn't come out was that we did in fact sing twice. Out of kindness, they cut the first one. And that was so hideous. We had, what did we sing? Was it America?
Springsteen. No, it's Born in the USA.
And I think we came in with the chorus. One of the Cryptics came in with the verse, and the other two Cryptics.
I mean, I didn't know the song.
Yeah,
I did not elected to sing.
There are mixed opinions on singing.
At that point, when it was on TV, I was absolutely shaking like a leaf, because I'd read in the Red Times they were going to show at least one of the singing bits, and it's like, oh my god, what if it was that one?
We did decide beforehand that if they were singing, we would sing come whatever. Because if you don't sing, you look really miserable, don't you? You really.
And that is the dilemma, isn't it? Because unless Lindsay Baumeister, who was on a couple of seasons ago, it kind of fulfilled life ambition for her. She and Lindsay can sing really, really well, so that was great. She'd sung live on, not live, but on BBC Two. And I know other people who would be mortified. I do know somebody actually in the chat, Gerard, who famously did. Was it True, Gerard, or Gold?
Gold. I remember that very, very well because that was just amazing.
Yeah, standout ballet. Yeah.
Yes.
So Gerard, we know, loves it. So so singing, we were spared 2 sets of singing, and you were spared. I don't know. There's a hole in my bucket, more or less embarrassing than Born in the USA. I don't know, but
it was certainly more together.
Gerard's saying that's why I thought I didn't want to come across as miserable. Miserable is one word that could never be used to describe Gerard, one of the cheeriest people I know.
I genuinely remember it, and it was awesome.
It was. I loved the Queen band members connection in round 1. That was
that was excellent from Molly, I must say. I think you could piece together, but they managed to get it at the end. Like, oh, I know it's Queen. I was like, oh, is it? Like, sure. Whatever you say.
I remember looking, and I was like, I had like Taylor. I said to Molly, I think I was like Taylor, May, and then whatever. Just in saying that it clicked, and Molly was able to pull it out. Wonderful question writing, though. I think that question.
Yeah, that one was very good. But hard.
And I think as captain, sorry, Padraig, carry on.
No, sorry.
No, so I think as captain, that's probably something that I would criticise myself for looking back, is that I was a bit slow on some of the questions. The first one, I know we talked about afterwards with the dishes, that we could have got that from Tajine if we'd been a bit quicker. And it was the same with this one, that we knew, okay, the last one, that's May, and just didn't have time to think, okay, well, obviously they're all May, what could it be? So that's, I think those were kind of kicking ourselves on those a little bit.
We felt exactly the same way, I think, with the Greek cities. I think we took the last clue and then, sort of panicked our way into yes. But had we taken the time to think, what are these actually? I think
that and the A to D anagrammy one, that was despair.
that was such a lovely question, and once you see it, you think, oh.
You're like, oh yeah, well, of course it is, yeah.
But once you see it, is the opposite bit. Yeah, that was a great question. I think Valerie here got it. If not, wouldn't have got it gone for it on 5, but certainly got it on the second clue, and I was floundering on that one. The other, there are a few of these near misses, like your kind of paellas and whatever, but the 39 steps.
Yeah.
Well, that was so annoying because I knew the 39 steps from the third one. Had we gone the other way round, it would have been fine, but I hadn't seen the first two. So
Yeah.
I just no, that's the 39.
And that's the trick, isn't it? Because if you know that Robert Powell was in the 70s version where he hangs from the arm of Big Ben, I think,
Seen that one.
then you kind of get it. But yeah, but you were so close. So close. And yeah, I wasn't going to go through all these in detail, but Padraig, who got the Pokemon? Who got their Pokemon knowledge?
Very, very on the ball.
we had actually discussed in our practice, like having it come up as a sequence, and we had come up with more difficult versions of Pokemon sequences. But to have it come up as a connection was something we weren't really expecting. That's why I named all of them, because I kind of just jumped the gun and I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna want Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield. And if it's just a connection, then yeah.
Was there a sense of also forgetting which round you were in? Because from the chat, it was like you were thinking it was the sequences round rather than just the connection round.
I think we wanted to be absolutely sure we knew what we were talking about, because this was 3 points. We were very confident, but we wanted to be absolutely sure.
We were so pleased that they got that question.
Yeah, same.
You were saying building societies was after your time. So much before my time. So much after my time that nowhere in the world.
I mean, that was great. I think there was a really good general knowledge one with the presidents and prime ministers one, but thinking of the year where the two elections happened in the time pressure.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that question. I think actually putting all of that out is, I know it's not where our strengths lie as a team, is putting out a whole bunch of things from different places all at the same time.
Yeah. I thought it was a first couple of rounds with classic only connect questions, some really, really well written, nicely constructed questions. The Graceland to USA one in ascending. We've seen these sorts of things before, but lovely and spotted nice and early by the Mother's Ruined on that one. The one I would have been nowhere on. Hole in My Bucket.
How could you not know that?
We have just watched it with my eldest child, my 10-year-old, and she's like, what song is this?
Do you mean kids don't sing it in the playground anymore?
What have I done wrong in raising my children? This is like...
I didn't make the same mistake, Joe. You knew it.
There you go. Parenting achievement tip.
I have screwed up there. Really, I genuinely have.
So 11-6 to Mother's Ruined, going into the walls. Cryptics. Oh my word. Oh my word.
Oh, that was really horrible.
Oh. Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't just us that felt that way. It would have been quite embarrassing if after all that everyone's like, yeah, your wall was easy. You just threw it.
I paused it for a bit and looked at that, and it's like, I don't know any of that.
Yeah. See, I would have quite liked the language bit in yours.
Yeah,
that would have suited me. But as a whole, no, I think probably I'd plump for us.
I loved it as a clue, as a group, but I think there was nearly 3 red herrings to the group, and when it was the only connection we could see, it was hard not to focus on it, and you start trying to reason like why particular ones would be in other groups, and that's why I spotted the Big Brother group. It was like I need to look at the ones that aren't possibly words for small.
Jared saying the first wall was the wall of death. I mean, the thing is, you did spot some of the groups. It was just solving them was was the problem, which I guess is the whole game, really. But
Yeah.
but you saw Spanish artists, you saw words for small, you didn't see the anagrams for supermarket.
Yeah, I really kicked myself about that.
But the Spanish artist was hideous.
Yeah.
It was.
You know,
It was.
my partner is an artist, and he didn't know the fourth one. So I mean, that was really nasty. I thought 3 were fair enough, but the other one, the only way of doing it, I think, was going through and eliminating. It was horrible.
Yeah, Gris and Vado, it's deep dive territory, isn't it?
But the Vado was the one who didn't know.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think we spent so long trying to complete that group. It didn't leave a lot of time for trying to crack whatever the word one was.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Steve is saying, I thought both walls were tough this week. I think general consensus on wall 1, but wall 2.
Yes, I did. I think it has to be said that I've seen a lot of comments that wall 1 was tough.
Maybe both of them were quite hard.
Did very well to get a high score on their wall, but their wall was also quite challenging. It was only their competence that that made it seem otherwise.
Yeah,
I've been enjoying the comments about the second wall and the particular the
prime ministers.
Yeah, prime ministers, Conservative MPs. Like, what is it?
Yeah, I've always had this sort of superstition that you never ever pick the water wall, and this game and our previous game against the Peacock, both times we got landed with the water wall, and both times I am very, very happy we got the water wall and didn't get the other one.
But you still ran it close. I mean, you literally last possible guess, last few seconds, and there were so many red herrings.
Yeah, I think it was good teamwork, because everyone was contributing, and we didn't just, we knew that there were the 6 parts of a flower, and we didn't just cycle through those. We were kind of trying to pick out the rest. And I think getting the esque group, which I think Veronica was it. You saw the grotesque, and then we got that. That definitely helped us to kind of unlock it a bit. But we were left with the 5
and I was
5 parts of the flower and some mystery words that didn't seem to mean anything.
Yeah, and I was sitting there with Petal and Plate and Patel, and I'd looked at Arab and thought, "There's no anagrams of Arab."
I did exactly the same. Yeah. And I was desperate to make unask, unmask, and I couldn't. I knew there was a word one, and I just couldn't.
Yeah, we could not pin that one down.
Yeah, same here.
I think for me the Burl statue, they both look weird, and it's like, okay, something could be added.
Yeah.
But going from grot to grotesque was just that's a really good spot. I really like that connection as well, actually, as a group.
It's a nice one.
Really nice.
I think spotting was it statue you used as the intro was like sort of almost textbook only connect on like
it's the ones with the
tattoo,
capitalization or the slightly off spelling, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It was really a masterclass.
Yeah. And of course, yes, we mentioned the cabinet ministers and somebody, but Chris has put that cube out pretty quickly. When did you film this?
This was April.
April, yeah.
It's at the end of term for us, so very, very right at the beginning of April.
Okay, so probably Boris was still prime minister at the time, but
That's always the way a little bit with politics questions, though, right? It's hard to predict which way things might go.
Exactly, and cabinet ministers, life's too short to be learning them anyway. So going into missing vowels, Mothers, you had a good lead. I mean, was anybody thinking there was going to be a different result other than Mother's Ruin winning that?
Yes.
Why?
Veronica?
You have so much faith, Veronica.
We had sat there and watched you guys just knowing acres of general knowledge, and you're all young and your reflexes are going to be a darn sight.
But the practice, you guys were so much faster than us on the buzzers as well. So we were
terrified of that.
Yeah, but I remember when it came down to it, the categories we had, because I remember feeling this sense of let's get loads of points, but then you can only get loads of points if you actually know what you're looking at. And that dinosaur group, I was just not a dino kid. Not
I
a
love
dino.
that dinosaur
Joe
group,
and I both got kids under.
Three small boys between us. It's sort of
Dino kids.
Yeah. I'm so pleased though. All I could see was, I think other people said it on Twitter as well, was double bum.
Yeah.
Double bum.
And you never know.
That's it, isn't it? As soon as there's anything potentially even a little bit rude, that's all. That's all
And
you
all
can
the
see.
nudity as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got
had
the nudity.
in concert answers, if you noticed. I mean, we did know that they were all right, but there were a number that one started and another one finished. It was quite useful.
Matt's put, I was saying earlier that having kids was an advantage in this episode. You know, it swings and roundabouts. You know, sometimes not having kids and knowing other stuff, and or being Irish, as it turns out. You know,
I mean, massively filming this show, it was a lot of stuff just fell very nicely for us this time. So stuff like the Hole in My Bucket and the music sequences, right, that just fell beautifully for us. And not getting the Pokemon question that we would never have got, it just fell into our lap. And it's luck or it isn't.
Yeah, there is luck in the way the questions fall. If you're pulling out the ones you can score heavily on and dodging the ones that would be going across the table for a bonus, there is luck. There's no doubt about it. We saw two really good teams playing tonight because we know that you're a really good team because we saw what you did last time around. So we get to see you both again. There's a comment here, if I can find it, the chat's moving. Andrew saying, not surprised Mother's Ruin did well on the wall. Katrina makes amazing walls.
She makes impossible.
They are.
It's traumatic.
So these will be on Puzzgrid, presumably.
Yeah, if people look up Katrina, they can find them. But yeah, I've got really into question setting actually since we did this. I keep bombarding the group. We've got this WhatsApp group. I keep bombarding them with all sorts of questions.
It's really fun.
And I won't say any of them, but please keep doing it.
One thing, I think actually what was really nice that came across tonight was that we all seemed to be having a good time. And I looked at you and you looked as if you were having fun. And for some reason, unbelievably, we looked to be having fun.
I look terrified.
Really pleased with that. That was lovely.
Yeah, well, I was going to say this earlier when you were talking about, singing on the telly. At one point, I think I forgot that it was even going to be on the telly.
I can over that for months.
And that's credit to the production team and the whole Only Connect experience, that you can kind of get lost in just playing the game and enjoy it. And we certainly enjoyed watching both teams tonight. 22-11, Mother's Ruin. So Mother's, you are through to the next round, whatever round that is. Cryptics, you will be back playing presumably one of the losing teams who won to get to the next round.
Yes.
So we look forward to that. Lots of nice comments in the chat, but let's quickly have a look at what is the question.
Last week's answer in need of a question was Jungle, and this question by Nick Reed was voted by you as the winner. Where would you have found a boogie in a 1973 song, a rumble in a 1974 event, and a fever in a 1991 film? Well done to Nick. This week's answer in need of a question is tag, and you can now vote on the long list at tinyurl.com/WITQ tag. Voting is open till Wednesday, and then we'll release the shortlist to try and find the winner. If you want to play What is a Question, then check out our Twitter and Facebook pages. On Sunday morning, we'll release a new answer in need of a question, and all you have to do is reply to it with your question.
And don't forget that every day between 12 and 2 on Facebook and Twitter, we have lunchtime quiz time where we pose a question at 12. We give you the answer at 2 and some additional interesting information about those questions. So, Only Connect, brilliant experience. We get to see you both again. We are overjoyed about that. We hate losing teams, and we're not losing either of you yet. University Challenge. We were final game of round 1, and it was a pretty one-sided affair with Robert Gordon running away with it, really, against Roehampton. Fantastic performances from the Robert Gordon team, particularly Anderson. So well done to Robert Gordon. I don't know if any of you were able to watch that in the flurry of text and messages that you would have been receiving after Only Connect, and if there's anything that you took away from the University Challenge.
It was kind of a blur, but I remember there was a question on, I believe it was framed as like the Japanese mythical gods and things, and like Okami, Persona, and Final Fantasy. I'm like, yes. Again, games that
Yes.
I know about. I was very happy.
We've just played the Connections Online Quiz League, which is a lot of video games questions, and none of them were about Final Fantasy, which is the only series of video games I can answer any questions about at all. No, I can answer all of them, but that never came up.
And there is a new series of Connections Online Quiz League starting in the new year. So if anybody wants to join in with that, go to quizcentral.net.
They also came up with a very similar question about members of Queen, actually, as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying the parallels between Only Connect and University Challenge that seem to happen every week or so. Like, do they plan it? I don't know. It's a conspiracy.
I thought Roehampton did really well in that they actually started to fight back towards the end. It did look as if it was going to be a walkover, didn't it? But they actually dug in there and were, they showed a lot of character, I thought, and were doing much better towards the end.
It would have been really easy for the heads to drop and then sink to one of these historic low scores, and they did fight back. And we've got comment from Brendan about their skipper had his moments, but the outstanding player of the day was Anderson on the Robert Gordon team, who was just outstanding. And Matt saying one of the highlights was one of the Roehampton team getting nominated against their will. I mean, who would just throw one of their teammates under the bus? Something that never happens on Only Connect, of course. But very entertaining. So we know now who the second round teams are going to be and who the best high scoring losers are from University Challenge. We will try and catch up with Ben from Fantasy University Challenge, see what his thoughts are. And if you want to play Fantasy University Challenge, look him up on Twitter, assuming Twitter still exists by the time you get around to next week. It's kind of looking relatively stable. So we've gone through all of tonight's quizzing. We're going to come back in a minute and just ask you what your champagne moments are. But now let's look at the nominees for Quizzer and Team of the Week.
This week's nominations for Quizzer of the Week are Kevin Ashman, the only Quiz League of London Full House of the Week; Ian Bailey, who won Mimi's Wells Gunpowder League; Paul Calotti, who got the only OQL Cup or Plate Full House of the Week; Taylor Harvey, who got 15 out of 15 in the International Culture Challenge; Simon Koppel for his play on Eggheads for the team Couples Therapy; Mark Lashley, who scored 11 out of 15 in Pop Solos, tonight's Mastermind winner; and Amy Schneider, the Jeopardy Tournament of Champions winner. And the nominees for Team of the Week are Couples Therapy, who beat the Eggheads; Fit for Purpose, who beat Broken Hearts, leaders of Quiz League of London Division 1, tonight's Only Connect winners; Pericardium, who overturned a 30-point deficit to win in the Online Quiz League Plate; Tim Goodett, who overturned a 22-point deficit to win in the John Jacob Cup, tonight's University Challenge winners; and the Zoomsbury Group, who won the Connections Online Quiz League. You can now vote at tinyurl.com/QW28NOV. Voting is open until Friday at 6 p.m.
Now, that was recorded, of course, before tonight's show's aired, so we will put in the actual winners' names, the Only Connect winners. Mother's Ruined. I'm getting a shake of a head. But it is Mother's Ruined. It is Robert Gordon, and it is Lee, who won Mastermind, who are all up for nomination this week. So get your votes in, and we will announce the winner Friday night. I'm getting a thumbs up. So, the end of another Quizzy Monday. Let's see what your champagne moments were. Let's go clockwise. Katrina, what was your champagne moment?
I think overall, the music questions have a reputation on Only Connect the pre-season, and we actually picked up both music questions. So the 3 points on the USA and the pick up on nudity, I'm going to say, will be mine.
Okay, Katrina likes nudity. Jade.
Pretty basic, but twigging early in that Pokemon question will forever be a highlight to me, because I've been wanting like more video game questions and like things that fall into my wheelhouse on Only Connect, so that felt really good.
Lovely. Joe.
Mine was the couple of times on the missing vowels where I finished Katrina's sentences. As Katrina is my cousin, and she is the very much the closest thing to a sister I have, and we have board gamed and quizzed together for a very long time, and often been able to connect in a weird brain way. And I just in Missing Vowels, Victoria is very clear. If she hears a correct answer, it's correct. If she hears an incorrect answer, it's wrong. So if two people say something at the same time and someone's right and someone's wrong, she'll take the wrong one. But if she can hear an incorrect answer, a correct answer from any number of people, then it works. And I love that Katrina was there saying things and I was there picking it up. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was really nice. Glad you mentioned that one, because that was good. A surprisingly normal turn of events, but no, lovely that one, Joe. Veronica.
I think not knowing the names of cabinet ministers in the wall, I think it's.
I think we can all put our heads high about that.
Let's not give them the oxygen of publicity. Quite agree. Well done, Veronica. Padraig.
For me, I think it has to be the Queen band members question, like just like elegance in question writing and the teamwork that it took to get us there in terms of the knowledge, and then Molly finally putting the pieces together. I think that was definitely the highlight for me.
Yeah, and I think for me, as a teenage Queen fanatic, that for me was the kind of the one that made me grin. And a lot of things made me smile, but I think that was the one that made me grin tonight. I mean, also Bill Nighy, the thought of Bill Nighy and The Walking Dead, that did make me grin as well, thanks to James. But no, I think I'd have to go with, looking at that, I think Queen. There's some lovely questions, but that one kind of meant something to me, and I just also thought it was clever, and I didn't get it as well, which is great. So I didn't even get the smug feeling, I just got the enjoyment, which was great. So thank you so much. Thank you to James, who was on earlier, to Katrina, to Jade, to Joe, to Veronica and Padraig. It was a delight having you on. Hopefully we will catch up with you again at some point in the coming series. It'd be lovely to chat to you again. Thanks so much to everybody who has been chatting away and posting comments in the chat. Sorry we couldn't bring all of your comments on, but as usual, I'm sure some of you have been having your conversations anyway going on there. Don't forget to vote for What Is a Question at tinyurl.com/WITQ tag. And don't forget to vote for the Quizzer and Team of the Week at tinyurl.com/QW28NOV. And we will be back same time next week with a group of guests that I haven't assembled yet. So look forward to finding out who we'll be chatting to. But until next week, have a wonderful week and some great quizzing, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for having us. Good night.
Bye.